It all began in 1916, Seattle. A shimmering lake, a modest wooden boathouse, and a man with a fascination for flight, William Boeing. He wasn't a pilot. He wasn't even an engineer. He was a timber magnate, but one with imagination and curiosity. After a short plane ride that left him unsatisfied with the aircraft's quality, Boeing famously said, "I think we can build a better one." Alongside Navy engineer George Conrad Westervelt, Boeing built the B&W seaplane. It wasn't just an aircraft. It was an experiment, a test of possibility. And when it flew, it marked more than a technological success. It marked the beginning of a philosophy. The company, first called Pacific Aero Products Company, became Boeing Airplane Company in 1917. From there, step by step, the company grew. Through the 1920s, Boeing built mail planes and trained pilots. When the Great Depression hit, it diversified into furniture and boats just to survive. Then came the call of history, World War II. Boeing answered with flying fortresses, the B-17, the B-29, engineering marvels that became central to the Allied victory. And with each aircraft, Boeing didn't just prove its skill, it solidified its reputation. After the war, Boeing took a bold leap, beyond the battlefield, to space. Partnering with NASA, Boeing played a role in crafting the mighty Saturn V rocket, the vehicle that would send Neil Armstrong to the moon. But perhaps its most profound impact came in the jet age. The launch of the 707 in 1958 changed everything. Affordable, fast air travel wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was a Boeing product. By the 1980s and 90s, Boeing was the uncontested king of the skies. Airlines trusted it. Engineers revered it. Passengers loved it. And inside the company, there was a guiding principle. Let the engineers build. Let the plane speak for itself. But as with many empires, the seeds of change began quietly. Europe's Airbus was rising. Market competition intensified. Then came the pivotal moment in 1997, a merger that would change the soul of Boeing, McDonnell Douglas. What was sold as a strategic partnership would turn out to be the beginning of a cultural transformation. Though Boeing was technically acquiring McDonnell Douglas had long prioritized cost-cutting, executive power, and shareholder value over engineering excellence. Boeing, once the engineers' company, was suddenly being run by finance-first leaders who spoke more in quarterly profits than quality assurance. Longtime Boeing employees noticed a subtle but profound change. Safety reviews became rushed, layers of management grew. Engineers were no longer at the center of the process. In 2001, the headquarters was moved from Seattle to Chicago, a symbolic and strategic decision. The message was clear. Boeing was now a corporation, not a craft. That same year, tragedy struck America, and Boeing played a role in arming the country's military. But as defense contracts soared, so did internal concerns. Corners were being cut. The 787 Dreamliner was the next big innovation. A marvel on paper, lightweight, fuel-efficient, future-facing. But behind the scenes, deadlines were brutal. Outsourcing was rampant. Parts were being manufactured around the world with misaligned tolerances. And Boeing's obsession with cost over quality was reaching its peak. Even more troubling, management was pushing deadlines faster than engineering teams could safely test. And slowly, the stories began to surface. Whistleblowers, journalists, former employees, they all pointed toward one conclusion. Boeing had become something else. From a company that once celebrated perfection to one that now raced for profit. And soon that new culture would be tested in the most tragic way. October 29, 2018. Lion Air Flight 610 crashes into the Java Sea just minutes after takeoff. All 189 souls lost. 5 months later, March 10, 2019. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 meets the same fate. 157 people gone. 2 crashes. Identical aircraft. Devastated families. And one question screaming louder than all. What happened to the 737 MAX? The answer, a single software system, MCAS, Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. Designed to prevent stalls, it instead forced the nose of the plane down again and again, based on faulty sensor data. Pilots weren't even told it existed. Why? Because Boeing didn't want to retrain pilots. That would cost airlines money and threaten sales. So MCAS was hidden, buried in technical manuals, left out of simulator training. As investigations unfolded, a haunting picture emerged. Internal emails showed Boeing employees mocking regulators, dismissing safety concerns, even calling the MAX designed by clowns, supervised by monkeys. FAA oversight? Lax. Boeing had effectively been allowed to self-certify the MAX. Globally, lawsuits, criminal probes, the CEO stepped down, billions lost, trust shattered. And yet, amid the ashes, whistleblowers kept coming forward. Engineers who'd raised red flags, safety inspectors who'd been silenced. Every voice echoing the same truth. The culture had changed. This wasn't the Boeing of William Boeing. It was a corporation trapped in its own ambition. The world had watched Boeing fall. Now, it was watching what would rise from the wreckage. After the second 737 MAX crash in Ethiopia, aviation regulators around the world grounded the aircraft. The FAA, under immense global pressure, reversed its earlier stance and followed suit. The investigations revealed shocking internal communications. In emails dating back to 2016 and 2017, employees mocked the FAA, boasted about deceiving regulators, and ridiculed the MCAS system. One internal message said, "I wouldn't put my family on a MAX." Congressional hearings followed. Boeing executives were grilled on their decisions, and former CEO Dennis Muhlenberg admitted that the company had made mistakes, though many felt the acknowledgement came too late. The company faced more than $20 billion in financial losses, legal settlements, airline compensation, production halts, and canceled orders. But the reputational cost was far greater. Whistleblower Edward Pearson claimed that the MAX assembly line was run like a factory in chaos. Internal reports confirmed a pattern: cost-cutting, schedule pressure, and retaliation against those who raised concerns. And the problems didn't stop with the MAX. The 787 Dreamliner, once hailed as Boeing's future, began facing production defects, gaps in fuselage joins, electrical grounding issues, and poor quality control from outsourced suppliers. The COVID-19 pandemic worsened the crisis. With demand for planes crashing, Boeing laid off thousands of workers and struggled with supply chain chaos. Then came the most tragic chapter: John Barnett's death. Found with a gunshot wound in March 2024 while giving a deposition in his whistleblower case, his death sparked outrage and suspicion. Civil aviation groups called for deeper scrutiny into Boeing's internal practices. Boeing says it's changing. Leadership claims they are bringing back the engineers. CEO Dave Calhoun promised reforms. Training protocols were updated. The FAA now has stricter oversight. But industry experts remain skeptical. In 2023, even newly produced MAX aircraft were found with loose bolts in rudder systems. In January 2024, a brand new 737 MAX suffered a mid-air panel blowout on Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. Investigators traced it to a door plug improperly installed. And again, pressure to rush deliveries was suspected. These aren't isolated stories. They point to a system where red flags were ignored again and again. Boeing's challenge now isn't just technical, it's moral. Because this isn't just about aircraft, it's about accountability. It's about lives lost, and it's about a company once seen as the gold standard in aviation, now struggling to rebuild trust from ground zero.